So Tipperary this year, you've watched the first few rounds of Munster. You must be very happy with how they're moving because this time last year it wasn't a happy place in Tip.
No, and it's probably the same group of players, Shane, really. But I suppose this year, for me, the movement is absolutely phenomenal, the team. But it's just a complete transformation of where we were last year. And going into the championship this year, we really didn't know where we were. We knew we had the management team in place. We hadn't seen the performance that we needed to see throughout the league. But I said it a couple of times from the start. When Liam and management team was named, that I did trust him and I trust the players, and he obviously knew what exactly he was doing, and he's a magician in his own right, and he's getting the absolute best out of the players. We were really comprehensive winners in all our games to date, and people say we weren't tested. I think we were definitely tested for the first 15-20 minutes in Clare, and I think that we just put our foot on Clare's throats for the full 72 or 3 minutes. There was no let up. It was absolutely relentless stuff. And especially when we got the goal after 40 minutes, Shamey's goal, it was all over. Then kind of Clare throwing the towel in, and we walked away with it after that. But coming up to Sunday, it's going to be a different test again in Limerick.
So what is it that makes Sheedy a magician? Like, you were there, first of all, you were brought in by Babs. You were also there during the Eamon O'Shea era as well. So what is it that makes Liam a magician?
Sure, he's able to get the best out of number 40 on the panel, like he's able to get the best out of number 1 on the panel. And for me, that is just a serious attribute to have in your artillery belt, and he has it. He can, he can put fear into the players, but yet he can, if you have any problems, he's the man you go to. You know what I mean? If you ever, need anything, want anything, Liam is the man you go to, but you also perform for him, because he has that fear factor about him. He comes across, as an absolute gentleman, in which he is, but you also, you have this thing that you just want to play so well for him, because he gives you so much, and you just want to do your absolute level best for him, and you can see that coming out now. You've players there that have, 50, 60, 70% up their game from the last couple of years to play for him this year, and you can see they're a united bunch, and they're really playing for their management team.
Like, if you look at the team that took over in 2008, that was a team that was going nowhere the previous season, or so it seemed, knocked out by Wexford as well. And then Ryan O'Dwyer told me a story whereby coming up to the Cork game, where it was the first win in Cork since 1923 or something like that, he had Cork jerseys on the tackle bags in the training session before the game. And that, what is it, like, did he do anything to motivate you personally? Did you need anything like that?
Yeah, I suppose for that time that you're alluding to in 2008, he had won a minor All-Ireland, a couple of years before that, and we had actually 2 minor All-Irelands coming into that, so he had a lot of young blood coming through. He could see it. He was there with Michael Lyon in 04 himself. He got a bit of training, went away, did whatever he wanted to do up to his own skill level, won a minor All-Ireland in between that and becoming senior manager. And he's able to absolutely think outside the box every time. His vision for the future is just phenomenal, that what he can see coming down the road, and what can he do to make the players tick properly for him. And it's really a collective with him that he's able to do that. It's not just one person he would target or 2 people. He targets the whole bunch, and he brings them all together, because he will always talk about the unity, I suppose, of the absolutely entire panel inside. Unity of a group of players that he can flourish underneath his leadership, and he's able to get the best out of them. So he's just phenomenal that way. Yes, he has a word in your ear here and there. He can get other players to ring other players, I suppose, to say we need a bit more here or whatever, and the players do it for him, and they get the best out of each other for him.
Because, like, this time last year, it was been considered an old team on their last legs almost at the end of the road. And then, for example, James Callanan, your own club man, he's coming along and he's lighting the place up, 3 goals in 3 games as well. Like, have you seen a massive night and day difference with Shamey?
Absolutely. But with all the players, you can see that Shamey is just an absolute phenomenal player, and we have loads of them right now in Tip. But the way they were playing last year, a lot of reporters were saying that they were beating Declan and so on. But that's the way we were playing, at that time. This year, absolutely transformation. We are back to where we were hurling in maybe 2016, that All-Ireland final, or even go back the best part of 10 years, back to that 2010 All-Ireland final, and we're back there again. The movement of the forwards up front up to now have been absolutely unmarkable. Teams have not been able to close down that space, and the players, Shamey is just going to town. You have the likes of Bubbles, you have the likes of Cathal Barrett that were in trouble for the last couple of years with form, and you could say that about so many other players, and they are absolutely maximising their potential right now for Tip.
Like, if you think about the teams that have upset Tip over the years, like I think the Tip teams that have gone in the past 10 or 12 years probably should have more than one or two All-Irelands, the different players that went through. It's the Kilkenny type of intensity, in your face, tackling in packs that would upset Tipperary. Limerick look like they're moulded from similar stuff.
Yeah, Limerick, they're playing, I suppose, on the same values that we found at our game when Liam came in 2008. And going back to winning All-Ireland, you know, if Liam had his 3 years, won All-Ireland, then he left, I would just love to have seen, and so many more that panel, that if he had to stay around that time for another couple of years, what could we have done, you know? And I'm not saying we would have done any more, but it'd have been, you know, definitely something that would have been wanted by the public and by the players, just to see what we could have done. But look, Limerick seem to have moulded it, their team around the same values as what we did in 2010 and what Kilkenny did for numerous years before that. And it's just the work rate, the relentless, the ruthlessness of it all for them. But for me, the one, you know, big thing for Limerick at the moment is they have the best panel of players in the country, really. And when you have that, then you can chop and change your team to make the panel really competitive, you know. And they're doing that at the moment. You've seen yesterday again, playing Clare, they're ready to bring off players at their ease after any time after 50 minutes, you know, put in the players, and it was just roll on. It was the exact same, you know. The game never changed or faltered in any way, and the work rate was as high as when the ball was running at the start.
Because against Tipperary, same as they do against everyone else, a lot of the time they're going to have 12 men in their own half, and the space that the Tip forwards operate in and flourish in probably isn't going to be there. So are those, like, and because their half forward line is up and down all day, they can get scores at the other end. Is the Tip forward line going to get the space to flourish?
We got the space again Cork, we got the space again Waterford, and I went to Innis and I just said, you know, there is no way we're going to be allowed given the space here. But it was just their movement was just absolutely unbelievable, you know, and it was unmarkable. And the movement of the Limerick forwards yesterday, especially their inside line, was the exact same. But you would think that both sets of backs and both sets of management are going to say we cannot give either full forward line the same room here. So you are going to expect that it'll be really congested in the middle of the field. But neither of their half back lines are going to want to find themselves too far up the field. Because the half forward lines on both sides have pace and have vision for a score as well, you know. So if you get inside, you know, you're going to be really, really in trouble then, because the likes of Garrod, Hegarty, or the likes of Bubbles, once you get inside, you're under serious pressure with them then.
Are there any matchups in particular that you'd be worried about as a Tip man? Callanan is just on fire.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to see who picks him up. Is it going to be Ronan? Is it going to be Cottle? And that is going to be phenomenal. He seems to be on fire. You know, he's a player that everyone loves looking at because he's really, really, you know, proven himself as a marquee forward. And the big thing for me with him is his power in the air for such, you know, he's not the biggest stature in the world, but he can win it in front. He can win it behind. I've seen him in a couple of Fitz games this year and he's able to do the same thing. So that's going to be one big key matchup for me. The other one, I would expect the likes of Paddy will pick up the likes of Garrod, Hegarty, as he did with Peter Duggan. Noel McGrath, Keane Lynch in the middle of the field. He's definitely one, you know, for us. You know, so look, I think Limerick are a phenomenal team, but I also think Tip are a phenomenal team. You know, could it be the difference at the panel at the end of the day? You know, what subs can make the bigger contribution when they come on? Could just tip the scales on Sunday inside and Thurles.
But the physicality, you'd imagine, like even just looking at some of the Tip players anecdotally, like for example, a few weeks ago I saw Brendan Maher and I've never seen him look as big up top as he did. So some of the Tip players, I'd say, have gotten physically stronger, but surely can't compare with what Limerick have.
They've got physically stronger, but I actually think they're leaner than they were. I've never seen Paddy or even James Barry, to name two players, as lean. They're still as big, but they seem to have just leaned up an awful lot more, and they're fitter. They're definitely fitter, and they've more pace put into their legs, you know, and they're able to stay going for an awful lot longer, and they're proving that with their hurling. Look, I said at the start of the year, the condition of the Limerick players in the Munster League when we played them, I felt that they had surpassed where they had finished in the All-Ireland final last year, and that hasn't changed. Now, maybe they've got smaller jerseys, I don't know, but they look absolutely, you know, so lean, but it's the aggression they bring to the play as well. And they are such a powerful team. Like, they brushed Clare away yesterday. Clare just could not break a tackle on them. And, you know, and that is something that we're going to have to bear in mind. But I don't think we're a small team ourselves. I think we do have plenty of power behind. Midfield is fine. And up front, I think it's our movement up front is going to cause the problem. It's not going to be the physicality up front. It's our movement, and it's up to the Limerick backs to see can they chase the likes of the Shamies and that. Like, when Shamie gets the ball, he's at 6'4", 6'5". He's a powerful man in his own right. If he drops the shoulder and takes you on, so Limerick are going to be wary of that as well, and they know exactly where they're coming from with their 2 wins, but they also know what they're going to meet in Tipperary. Have been absolutely flawless in what we've done to date.
Clare, though, with the puckouts, you couldn't go long against Paddy O'Loughlin, Declan Hannon and Diarmuid Burns. When they tried to go short, it broke down, or maybe they just don't have the same level of hurler. But Tip are faced with that same issue. What do you think Tip will do about that?
Yeah, well, if you flip that over as well, will Limerick fancy going long on Tip?
Well, their half forward line is probably all 6'3".
Yeah, absolutely. Grohl Hager, they are big men. Kyle Hayes, huge men in the air. So they will have more on us there. As you said, well, they'll be more happier to go along, let's say. On our puck outs, if we go along, can we contain them there? I thought our restart against Clare was absolutely outstanding with the short puck outs. I don't think that's going to happen again. Limerick, I do think they are going to force to go along, and that they are going to hunt in packs and try and smother the space there. And that is one thing I do agree with, that they will make us go along. We'll probably try and make them go along as well, because it'll suit our half back line. But then, like the likes of the Bonner last day was excellent in the air. But you are going to need the likes of whoever starts, whether it's Bill or Dan and Bubbles or if it's Jason. They are going to have to compete high in the air. Now, do they have to win the ball on those big players? I don't think so. But I think they do have to bring it to the ground, where the likes of Noel McGrath and where the likes of Michael Breen are going to have to be. If we do force them to go along, it would be easy to switch the likes of down to the middle of the field for the puck outs every time, and bring Michael Breen to your half forward line. He's at 6'3" or 6'4". Big man again underneath the likes of Paddy O'Loughlin. Do we have to win in the air? No, but do you bring it to the ground? Absolutely.
Tactically, I've been impressed with Tip this year more so than in the last number of years. Like Michael Breen, who you mentioned there, he was put on Colin Galvin the last day, and he just stood on him for the whole game and shut him out of it. The previous game, he was on Jamie Barnes, shut him out of their playmakers. So I wouldn't be shocked if he was on Cian Lynch as well. So what do you think Tip will do? And even I would say Limerick would look at, let's put William O'Donoghue on Noel McGrath, because if he isn't setting up the play, Tip might be in trouble.
Tip for me went after their leaders, on the opposition so far. Now, it's very hard to go after Limerick leaders because they have an awful lot of them. But I do think the likes of Declan Hannon has to be stopped from behind. Just absolutely have to be stopped.
Bonner, would you put Bonner on?
Would I put Bonner on him to stop him? Probably not. I would like to see, if you had the likes of Bubbles there, let him step the yard or two off him, right? Not to man mark him like he did down in Cork, and he shot the lights out 5 points from play. What you don't want is that Bubbles takes it 3 or 4 yards off, and then our players are under so much pressure behind, and they're forced to go along, and they drop it down top of Declan Hannon's head, and it makes Bubbles, that he's completely out of line. I think if that happens, we have to work the ball to Bubbles to push Declan Hannon. Now, he likes to sit in the pocket, so I think whatever player has to be, there's no point in man marking him. I think you have to play off him, and that is the likes of Bubbles or even Jason or whoever, and put Bonner out on the wing to take down the likes of your big Paddy O'Loughlin, or to stop the other wing back coming forward, because he's phenomenal.
Burns.
Yeah, Burns. He just loves shooting from outside 65 yards again yesterday to stop that. So look, 2 half back lines are phenomenal, and it's who we have to be able to break down theirs. They have to be able to break down ours. But I would be going after to try and tie down the likes of Cian Lynch, tie down Declan Hannon, and tie down Alan Callanan first. There's the 3 leaders for me. Going on what I've seen so far, but they're phenomenal all over the place. But take down the big men. If you keep them out of the game, and it has to be done from the start. The likes of Tony Kelly, Brendan Maher was phenomenal on him. He bet him from the start. You can't give these boys, let him into the game for 7 or 8 minutes and then say, right, we're closing down then, because it's too late. Then the confidence are up.
You played Limerick a number of times over the year. What's the rivalry like between Tip and Limerick?
It's absolutely ferocious, and especially the Limerick supporters. If they get a sniff of it with 10 minutes to go, or 12 minutes, I've never seen a team like them to be able to lift their game. If they can get a sniff, and this is when they haven't been going so well. I remember playing the 3 games again in Limerick in 07, even in 13 inside in Thurles. We were on top and they came back, and it was that final 10 minutes when they got a sniff of it. They absolutely closed you down. They were ruthless in the tackle. They're so physically strong and powerful all the time, but now they're adding that with all their hurling. They're mixing with the big boys from the Kilkennys and Tips and Galways, and they're excellent. That's the difference for me, and it's just that last 10 minutes coming in. You have to keep the pressure on them. The crowd is huge for Limerick, and they play off that.
That trilogy in '07, that was your first season, was it?
That was my first, come on to that was my first season, yeah.
What was that like? Because just as a supporter going along to it, it was kind of it was surreal that there would have been 3 games for that.
Yeah,
it was
3
never
games.
ending with extra time and everything.
Yeah, and it was a huge game down in Gaelic grounds the first day. It was pelting hot, the sun was there, huge crowd ended in a draw, came to Thurles the Saturday night after, and there was it was a nice evening again. It was dull, overcast. I think we were up by 7. I think it could have been 10 points at one stage. And they reeled us like that again. The last 10 minutes they got their tails up, but they reeled us back in and we drew it, and they bet us in on a wet kind of day down in Limerick, So it's just they're a team that, never went away when you played them, and now more so than ever, they're so strong, their panel is so strong, and the county are behind them, and they're just hungry for success. They will not go away on any team now.
What chance do you give Tip of winning All-Ireland this year? Like year 1 under Sheedy, to turn it around from what it was at the end of last year. The team had been on such a bad run of results. What chance do you have of an All-Ireland and Munster?
I don't ever back again Tip. I love the blue and gold, all the supporters, the players. I'm going to say it again, I trust the management, I trust them players, and I think this team can win All-Ireland in their first year under this management team. And why I say that is I think the quality is there, but all these players already, have played, a lot of them have played under Liam already, the core group there, and know what he's about, so they'd have settled in really, really fast to him, They'll know the standards, he set the standards, and now I think they're primed more than ever, because look, if you go back to the age profile, I know if you break it down, there's still only 27 or 28 of a mix throughout the whole team. But Liam came back for the reason that he thinks there's an All-Ireland in the team, and maybe not 3 years down the road. He wants it now when he came back, So I think they're going to go for it. I think we've proven it already. Is a Munster final the end-all be-all? I don't think so, but I think the All-Ireland final is, I think Tip have as good a chance of any out there. And if you're to pick out the best hurling team in the country right now on their displays, you'd have to say the best 2 teams are meeting in the Munster final on Sunday, and that's Tip and Limerick.